Hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and we have another fantastic show for you today. We're going to be talking about another great hot topic that I'll say in a minute. But before I get to that, of course, I have to let you know about and be introduced to my two amazing co-hosts today, Dr. Chanel de Guzman and Sheila Applegate. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm doing the hand wave gesture, high energy hand gestures.
It's like by two queens, my queens, madam, your grace, your graces. Um, we're at almost at the end of the week, and so how has your week been? So, Dr. Chanel, how's your week been so far?
So far, Brian, it's been great. I actually worked a couple hours on Monday on the holiday, but
Mhm.
that's what entrepreneurs do
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes. And then we're getting ready to take my daughter tonight to Port Huron, which is about 2 hours away from where I'm at
Mhm. Right.
for her. She's a contestant in the Miss Michigan Teen USA pageant. So
Oh, neat.
we have
Wow.
2 days ahead of us. So
Oh
yeah.
man, I saw a picture of her. I think you posted on social media, and man, she just is a beam of light.
Oh, thank you.
So we wish her, all the luck in the world. She's a winner regardless
Thank
in,
you.
in our book.
Thank you
What
so
about what about you, Sheila? What's been going on with you?
Well, I've been having a great week. Last night, Zach, my partner Zach, did his first somatic breath group after getting certified. So that was a lot of fun.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it went really well. And then I woke up this morning and it was June 1st. And as a mother of a transgender child, I just took a moment to have so much pride and joy
Yes.
for the people of this world, and especially
Oh,
my child.
oh man,
absolutely.
that is wonderful. Yeah, we're gonna be featuring our Truth and Power series that we did a while back, celebrating International Pride Month. We're gonna be having that be replayed on our social media all month long in celebration. So, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
How
Um,
about you, Brian? What did you had?
Man, we got so much going on. I'm gonna have to, we're planning a lot of new interesting things for everybody. So it's been a great week. My my garden and backyard and all the stuff that I've been doing is just there. My little sprouts are up now. So
Oh,
something
Mm,
about seeing like plants like grow and you see
mhm.
them kind of come up. It's just like like a symphony going off as they're
yes,
blossoming.
Yeah.
absolutely. Good for you.
Oh man, thanks for that. Well, listen, we have today another great hot topic. We're going to be talking today about healing our inner child, and as part of that, the trauma that's associated with that. And to help us dig a little bit deeper into that topic today, we're going to be featuring several clips from our latest and new exclusive interview with Millana Snow, who's a powerful leader in self-healing and holistic health. She was been practicing meditation since the age 4, and she has become a leading voice in the global wellness industry by sharing her own healing journey with hundreds of thousands of people and scores of brands and community. Now, as a woman of color with Afro-Latina, Panamanian, American, and British roots, Millana speaks to audiences as diverse as her background. She's a healer, a teacher, and wellness entrepreneur with a passion for sharing healing with a global community of clients, followers, brands, and celebrities, and even members of the royal family. So she's just a powerful person. I've known her for about 3 years now. And so before we begin, as always, I want to remind our audience that you are part of this conversation today. We want your questions, your comments, your thoughts. Just post them right to our chats on Facebook and YouTube. and you can be part of this conversation. So, ladies, we've got this first clip that I want all of us to kind of watch and listen to, and then I'll get your responses on the backside. So, here's Millana.
So I grew up not having a racial identity. I grew up not having a religious or spiritual identity, and I grew up without having really a familial foundation to say what my beliefs should or shouldn't be, which is really, really something.
Right? I mean, I mean, and children are resilient, but they're resilient in a way where we decide what all that means, and a lot of times it's just to survive, right? It's just to try to get through the day-to-day, getting up and moving through life. But that doesn't serve you later on when you go from surviving to living to thriving, right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's and so you have no directional star of where to go. How did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, this is literally what I'm writing my book about, because I feel
Right.
like the only way that people can get out of survival when you've been arrested in your development, which tends to happen when you have trauma as a child and haven't been able to heal, is self-healing. So my journey to
Right.
going from survival for most of my life to finally just living to actually thriving in most areas of my life as a healthy individual, it is primarily based out of self-healing. And of course I have and had teachers and healers and therapists, and I've read many, many books and have gone to trainings and retreats. But most of that is undergirded by a deep desire to heal myself and to make meaning out of chaos, to make meaning out of meaningless um, struggle. And so I think if this can be helpful to anyone out there, I think what I've found in both healing myself and helping working with healing others all over the world, or supporting them in their healing all over the world,
Yeah.
is that when you have trauma in your childhood, or you have dysfunction in your family, you tend to become arrested in your development. And so you might age in your body, but you're
Yeah.
still the same age in which you experience that trauma. Your development mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is paused. And so what I see so often is adults, both men and women, who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and older, who are still operating at the emotional level of a 12-year-old, of a 20-year-old. And that can be really harmful, not just to that individual, but to their families and to our
Mm.
society. And I think that's what we're seeing in our culture today: arrested development because of unresolved trauma. And my thesis is that the way that we heal that, culturally, individually, communally, familially, is by healing ourselves, because we're the only ones that can do that.
Mm, mm, mm. Woo! I want to hear the organ in the background, the church organ on that one. Thoughts, Sheila? I'll go to you first.
Oh, I think that, she beautifully expressed the process of healing that is so essential for us to move through. And I love that she spoke about individual and society, because it is when we move to that understanding of self-healing and overcoming trauma that we are able to move as a collective forward. So
Yeah.
I I mean, I've dedicated my life to that journey, so I'm right 100% with her. And I think it's beautiful when someone is open and sharing of their own healing path, because as healers, it's really essential for us to also heal ourselves and to focus on that along the journey and to share that with others. So I really honor her for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I feel the same way. What about you, Dr. Chanel?
Yes, Brian. So she is awesome. Melina?
Milana.
Millana. Yeah,
Hmm.
Millana, just to be brave to, like you said, Sheila, to share her journey, because it inspires others. One thing that came to my mind is she talked about being able to heal yourself or heal ourselves. Well, as children, I'll go personal. I didn't know anything about healing myself at, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So I did have what we call an adverse childhood experience. And the only thing I knew as I was able to get out of that adverse situation was to go on the run, so to speak, and outpace the trauma because I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just went into overdrive, overachievement,
Mm,
which is one of the manifestations. It could go one of several ways, but one of them is overachievement. And so I just excelled so that I never sat down and never had to stop long enough to even associate with the trauma.
yeah,
And it wasn't
Mhm.
until, you start seeing you become more conscious. So I was operating unconsciously, in survival mode
yeah,
for the first half of my life, essentially, until, there's an event that happens that causes you to stop. And then you start to get the help, like she said, the therapy and the counseling and the coaching to become conscious of that trauma,
right.
be able to start to unpack it and really deal with it. So, I'm just so glad for, this conversation so that we can maybe help other people become more conscious and get out of that survival mode so they can start living and thriving, as she mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Again, this is not something that we talk about. I think mainly because um, we're conditioned to believe that that we naturally evolve in that emotional space just because we're getting older.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that is not true.
That is not
That's
true at all.
not true. We can go,
Right.
we can matriculate through our educational system, K through 12, and then we can go into higher education and we can learn all these things intellectually that help us in our professional world, right?
Mhm.
That we believe is supposed to be our professional world because we've been taught that that's also part of it.
Yep.
But we don't work on our inner self, right? Because we think, well, we're over that, right? Or that's in the past, and then what's in the past is in the past, right?
Yeah.
And so I like you, Sheila, and Dr. Chanel. I love that we're, as a society, it seems as though we're having more and more conversations about that truth,
Mhm.
right? And that
Mhm.
we're open, especially the parents, right? Parents are becoming more open to hearing from their children what was traumatic for them,
Mhm.
right? What was painful for
Right.
them, and letting it be okay.
Right. Because of course we know that wasn't the case with prior generations, right?
Right. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, they're like, you're going to be parented by me and you're gonna like it in any way it's supposed to be. You
Right.
know?
And
Yeah.
to the people, right,
Uh,
Brian? Because I mean, I feel fortunate that my parents were aware of that along the
you
journey and
see,
showed
yeah.
me counseling and then moving into therapy as my education, you have to look at yourself. So fortunately, some people do get to go down that path,
Yeah.
but more and more, I think that it's when I first started, it really, even going to therapy, like Dr. Schnell, you just said, it was like not, it was kind of taboo. People didn't really do
Hmm.
that even when I was a
Yeah.
therapist in the early days. And then when I moved to the, alternative healing techniques, that was just way out there. Now they're normal. Like people are talking about them all the time. And that, well, in my world, I might be off, but I think in the mainstream too. But I just feel like there is progress, right? Like Dr. Chanel, you just said, like, I think we're moving
Yeah.
as generations go forward, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, we're going to take a very quick break because we've got a lot to get to today on this morning as we talk about healing our inner child with a leading voice in wellness, Millana Snow. So we'll be right back, everybody.
6 years ago, when I started SOULIVITY, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose so they can become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit SOULIVITY.com now.
I just love that commercial. Oh, it's so like warm. It's like, yeah, welcoming. Welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity, as we're having some fun today and some powerful conversation as we talk about healing our inner child. We're using our latest interview and exclusive with leading voice in wellness, Millana Snow, as a backdrop. There's another clip that I want to show both of you and our audience about that's kind of like a continuation of this conversation. So here's another clip with Millana Snow. I find in my own life that the more I do this, the younger I actually feel, the more energetic I feel, right?
Yeah.
And so you have all these wonderful classes and courses, and you even do one-on-ones with clients. What's the most common theme that you come across with different people? Like you know, like is it childhood trauma in terms of a certain thing, or is it something that they're not aware of yet that relates to that?
I would say, whether they're aware of it or not, the theme that I have seen with myself and my clients is the suppression of who they are and what wants to come through them. So a lot of times, I think people are actually most afraid of being more of who they really are because of what they imagine that they will lose in the process, not recognizing that everything is always changing and that you have to let go to make space for what wants to be. And so I love that you said that you feel more alive when you do this work, because the more that we pull back these layers of our ego's identity of who we think we are or who we think we should be, the more we uncover our true essence, which is the nature of our aliveness, right? That oneness, that soul, that spirit, that eternal youthful inner child that is in all of us. So I find that a lot of times people are really just afraid of letting those identities fall away. And they believe, I think we all believe, that that's a form of death and that we are afraid of dying, whether we're conscious of those identities being a death or not. So, you know, an example of that might be someone could be really interested in starting a new business and following their heart. Since they were a kid, they've maybe had an idea they've always wanted to pursue. They're realizing, like, man, this physical body is aging. I don't have that much time. Let me get to this thing that I've always wanted to do. And then they let themselves start to feel the excitement of it and the joy of what could be possible. And they think then, in contrast, about how maybe their husband or wife won't accept them, or how maybe how scary it might be that if they become wealthy, that their family won't love them anymore, right? So we start thinking about all of these things, all these beliefs that are actually built in from cultural and familial agreements that aren't necessarily true or that aren't necessarily supportive of your health and well-being. So this idea of becoming more of who we are, I find, is often conflicted with beliefs and programs that only we can know and then let go if we have the courage to look deep inside of ourselves and to accept that things will change and that maybe some of those agreements with others won't work out.
Wow. That one always, that part always gets me because of, she's so right when we talk about, as we're growing up, there's these agreements that are made as children with our parents, and that those agreements become our belief system.
Right. And that of the society too, Brian.
Yeah.
She
Yes.
talked about suppression
Yes.
of who you are and being more of who you are. Well, I agree with that, but I'll also put a caveat and I'll give the insider view. You know, what if you don't know who you really are?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you're on this conditioned script from the trauma. So in my
Mhm.
case, and overachieving and never stopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know who I was. And finally, one day in therapy, I just said, okay, now how am I supposed to know who I really am if I've
Right.
been on this conditioned script? And
Right.
Right.
one thing, Sheila, she told me was my therapist, she said, you really are who you are at home. And I thought,
Mm.
"Oh my gosh, that's really who I am because I'm completely" you haven't seen me at home, but and my
Wow.
husband knows this, I am completely different than the persona that people see. I'm merging those 2 now, but yes, now I
Mhm.
understand that, there's a difference with your conditioned persona versus who you really are, but you've gotta get in touch with that
Yep.
before you can express more of it. So I believe what she's saying is true, but some of us actually didn't know. So not so much fear, but just we don't know, didn't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sheila,
Mm.
what you're thinking right now.
Well, Dr. Still, that's a really good point because it is a self-discovery, I think, that happens as you strip away the layers. And I love that you said you were the most yourself at home and that your husband knows your true self the most, or your family. And I think that I've noticed a lot of people, well, including myself years ago, as I was changing or as my clients are changing, there comes a point where um, a lot of people seem to be like, well, if I go any further, my relationships are gonna change, and that's
Mm.
scary, and not too long ago, someone told me, like, if I'm afraid to be my full self because the more light I bring in, I might stop smoking, and then even that might be an issue in the house where my partner's a
Wow.
smoker, and it's just fascinating how much we cling to forms of relationships as our
Mm-hmm.
security, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that does slow us down, and other
Mm-hmm.
times that excels us forward.
You
Mhm.
know, as you both were talking, I was thinking that um, regardless of whether or not you had parents that were kind of socializing you into a certain belief system or not, or even if you didn't have that, because Milana says in her interview that that was also true for herself, that she didn't know and that she filled that with something,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
that's what children do. You
That's
fill
what
it.
we do.
You
Right.
feel it. And so that becomes your agreement and your belief system, right? And I think in many people's lives, that old quote from Nelson Mandela where he's talking about um your greatest fear is not that you are, basically, I'm paraphrasing, that you are this powerful light in the world, but that you're scared of your own power,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
that is
Most
your
people are
greatest
afraid of their own
you're
power. Yeah.
afraid of your own power for fear of what people will think and feel about you, right?
Yeah, so we keep it dim.
We keep it dim, and that is not what we were meant to do on this world. We are not meant to do that. We're all meant to shine, right? And he says again, he says,
Right.
as you shine, you give permission to other people to also shine their light. And then the world is full of
Mhm.
light, which is funny because when you in movies and TV and in films and all these other things, that is always something that people talk about. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if the world was just full of light and love? You're afraid of doing actually that.
Love and light. Ooh.
Um,
So scary.
no, right? Exactly. Listen, why don't we take another quick break and we'll be back with more of our conversation about healing our inner child with some sneak peeks from our exclusive interview with Millana Snow. We'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be?
regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. We are talking about healing our inner child today. We're debuting actually some sneak peeks of our exclusive interview with Millana Snow, who's a leading voice in global wellness. She talks a lot about healing our inner child as a important step in us expanding our awareness about ourselves and our world around us. And so want to go to this last clip of hers that I think is really another, it's a little shorter, but it's still another very powerful observation and thought. You know, wow. You talked about like your childhood and moving through these different aspects of your life. Do you feel like because you went through those things, you have more tools in your tool belt as you are relating to other people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the thing that's so beautiful about going through that full completion of healing a traumatic experience or a trauma or a loss, really like bringing it into completion and resolution, is that then it gets to be a gift. If we leave something unresolved, then it's a burden. But if we bring it into completion, then it is a gift for our use and for the benefit of ourselves and others. So something I shared on social media for the first time a couple of days ago was that I was actually suffocated as a child for
Yeah, I
about
saw that. My goodness.
Yeah, and it's completely resolved in me. I feel now so grateful that I was able to use that experience as a gift that informs my well-being, but also informs the work that helps so many people with breath work. I can't imagine that I would be a breathwork teacher if I didn't have that experience that was kind of playing out in the background as I was healing myself. And now that I've really revisited that experience and really worked through that emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, physically, for years, I realized that as challenging and as tragic and unfortunate as that was, it actually ended up being something that was a major turning point in who I am today in the most positive ways, in ways that outweigh the pain and the trauma that it caused. And so now, when people ask me about the gift of breath, or they're afraid of going deeper into their minds or their experiences or their memories because of what breath can do, I understand and I can reflect back to them how deeply I understand that compassion is real and thorough. And it's not that you have to go through those levels of trauma to be able to experience or share that kind of compassion. But I will say that bringing that trauma in particular to completion was what made that for me something that I'm even more passionate about. It's almost like it gave me fuel to get this message out to a greater audience so that fewer people would cause that kind of pain towards others, but B, can use what I've learned to transform their pain and their trauma in an empowering way. So
Oof. Yeah, I have to admit, when we were doing that interview, and I mean, I'd seen the social media post about that, and it, I cried when I read it and saw it, and then as we were doing the interview, and she mentioned it again, I had to hold it together.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And the whole trajectory of her using that as, for her healing work, as a catalyst for her changing and empowering others. Just, whew, I'll let you guys give me your thoughts because it's just amazing.
Well, for me, she said a lot of very profound things, and while I did have a pretty, I think, gentle childhood with life in it,
Yeah.
I've had several very traumatic events since then. The first really traumatic event being in college when I was one of the only students to come back from London when Pan Am 103 the plane.
Yes.
And so most of like
Yes.
several of my friends, fellow students, were on that plane. And so from there, I've had plenty of trauma and growing and knowing and going deeper in. And so I want to acknowledge that it's not just, the trauma doesn't stop at childhood,
Yeah.
and that there are layers. And one of the
Yes.
things that she was talking about with being bringing it to completion, I think it's so powerful and so layered because I said earlier, Zach has started somatic breath work as a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
facilitator, and he did that process on me a few weeks ago, and I was brought back to a trauma that I thought I've worked on, right? And that was my twin flame was killed by a drunk driver
Yes.
17 years ago. And I had
Mm.
experienced and grieved and did all the things. And I really
Yeah.
felt like pretty good about it. And then during that process with Zach, something was triggered, and I went back to the very day. And what I realized is I had never been angry about it, um, for many reasons.
Oh.
And I couldn't find the anger. I knew the people who were in the car, and I knew that it wasn't intentional. And they were young, and we did, because of who we were with spirit, we did know it was coming in a strange way.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it was all in divine planning. But what happened, what came out, was I had never in my mind even witnessed the actual event. Whenever I saw it, I saw him like leaving the body and in spirit. But when I brought it out from my body, it was the image of what a car accident actually would look like. I
Mm.
wasn't there, but like to realize that suffering. So sometimes, and I took a long time to say this, but
No, no.
sometimes it is so layered,
Yes.
and that's why we
Yes.
keep doing the process. I felt very healed along the way, but
Yes.
here was this one piece, and what I discovered is what I did is I blocked people from loving me completely, especially men.
Oh.
From that point, there was just a shield. Even though I have lots of love in my life, there was a layer where I thought I'm never going to be that loved again because I don't want to be that hurt again.
Mm.
And so it's such a beautiful process when we move through that.
Wow.
And it's continual, I think.
Mm. Thank you, Sheila. You got, oh, I'm emotional over here now. Thank you for sharing that. No, seriously. I mean, you're so right. You're so right. I'm just thinking of my own life, but Dr. Chanel, what are your thoughts right now?
Well, Sheila, our heart definitely goes out, and as you continue to, you know, experience more, peeling back of the layers, I think what I'm also hearing and an understanding is sometimes we will get triggered even though we think we have healed
Yeah.
because, and I think the reason why is because, there is such a level of enlightenment that is our highest good, and that's, in infinity, right?
Right.
It's we're not
Right,
there,
right.
and so we
Right.
have a lot more growth to go, even though we think we've gotten through completion, we
Mm-hmm.
think we've gotten resolution, but in fact, it's just preparing us for the next level.
Right.
And then there might be an incident that comes to you that demonstrates, oh, well, we've got a little bit more work to do. Because, in my case, just always trying to get to my highest good, which is, to God in the fullest. And so I know I have to continue to work and be open, and that I can't just stop just because I think that I've been healed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
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 Yeah.
How many times have you heard from different people, "Oh, I'm over that."
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's like you just look at them and silently say, "No, you're not. No, you ain't.
Yeah.
No, it's right there." The fact that you just said that is like right in front of you, like a big pink elephant, like with a tutu dancing around, saying, "I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm ready to go to the next level."
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
thank you both for that. I mean, I really resonated with everything that, you know, Melania, you, Sheila, and you, Dr. Chanel, really say, because I know in my own life, one of the biggest traumatic experiences in my own life was with my mother and my biological mother. And I know this specific incident. I won't go into it now. You'll have to read the book or something later in life to get that part. But it still comes up, even though I am more at peace than I've ever been, and all that. I can go back to that moment and I can feel compassion and sympathy and all that for that part of me, that child in me, where I just want to hold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just hold that young Brian and let them know that it's okay. And that I know that happened to you. No, we can't change that. We can't go into the past and change it, but we can bring it forward and give you the space to cry, be angry, you know, whatever it is, so that you don't have to keep replaying that over and over and over and over and over again with every single relationship you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. I just want to let everybody know that, you know, the interview, the exclusive with Millana Snow is available. It's at SOULIVITY.com. It's only at SOULIVITY.com. You're not going to find this anywhere else on, you know, unless people are sharing it out, which you are happy to do. It is a powerful interview. What we just gave you is just a drop in the water around all the goodness of what Millana is saying to the world and things that I know that you're going to relate to. Please go to soulivity.com today and check it out. It is a wonderful interview that I've been waiting to do for a long time. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You know, I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time, just the three of us, to kind of talk about this aspect of living, because, you know, we talk about passion and purpose and that kind of thing from a lot of times from a more professional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't spend, you know, a lot of times I find that generally, not at Soulivity because we're doing it all, but generally speaking, we don't spend enough time talking about this part of creating our best life, right? My philosophy, and I'd love to hear yours, is that we can only create at the level of consciousness that we exist at in the current moment. And if that is if that includes not dealing with and healing those childhood traumas, or at least beginning to heal them and being aware of them, we're stuck in place. And our our professional careers with money and all that may get bigger, right? We may have success, but we don't internally have the happiness and the joy that we really, really want until we start working on that part. And so that's my own personal philosophy. Dr. Chanel, you know, is it similar to you, or
It is. It is, Brian, because what I've come to understand is it's awareness. So it's awareness and being consciously aware of things that might be blocking you on the inside, no matter what's going on the outside. So that suppression that we sometimes keep things stuffed down
Yeah.
because we don't want to lose control. We don't want to be out of control because we have to graduate, we have to get the job, we have to pay the
Yeah.
mortgage,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So who wants to open up and be vulnerable and let all this stuff out?
Mhm.
And now you're all over the place.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Mhm.
instead, we keep it, if you don't mind me saying, we keep it tight. We keep
Yeah.
this container
Yeah.
so that
Mhm.
we are scripted and we can stay in lockstep with cultural norms, with societal and family norms, instead of taking the time to heal and understanding that in that healing, which is really the beginning of the journey, you're going to experience that inner peace, the inner joy, the life and the love, so that you can express who you really are, as we
Right.
talked about earlier, which is going to benefit more and more people, you being your true self
Mhm.
instead of being confined and contained.
Right.
And that's just not the way to live. We want life full and
Mhm.
thriving, because we don't want that emotional weight, right? We don't want to carry that around. It's heavy and it
Yeah.
manifests in so many different ways. And so my philosophy is let's get healed, seek out the help, so that you can live in your fullness.
Mm. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Mhm.
Sheila, what are you thinking about this?
Well, that was beautifully said, Dr. Chanel and Brian. I think absolutely. Like this is when we're not looking at our truth and experiencing life in its fullness and exploring what that means in the whole spectrum of emotion, we're walking dead. We're what they
Mm.
do the movies about zombies
Yeah.
about. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
like that's why those movies are popular, because people relate to them.
Mhm.
So I do believe that life is always giving us opportunity to explore. So if you're not ready to go into your childhood, you don't need to, because life will constantly present for you an opportunity to explore what your hangups are or what is keeping you from living life fully. So there's plenty to work with right where you are. And then often from that, you may notice where the pattern started in early childhood, and that may help with the release. But definitely, I would suggest getting someone to help you along the journey, whether it's a therapist or a coach or a healer, whatever you're resonating with. I think that it's so important to have help with that, because if we could do it ourselves, we would have.
Absolutely.
And if we didn't, then we need some outside guidance and support on that path, or even a witness. I also think that it's important to celebrate the completions along the way. Like we talked about how there's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
more, but that doesn't, we can get addicted to the healing process and never enjoy life. I've seen that happen too.
Yeah.
So we want to be like, no, I feel really good right now. Life
Right.
is great. Be
Right.
there, and even if there's a part of you that knows as long as you're living, you're going to be given opportunity to grow deeper and more, but celebrate, live life. When you're feeling joy, it's real. Let it be, because that's going to accelerate you to the next step. And if something comes up, it'll be easier each time because you've already done the hard work.
Absolutely. When you were saying that, Sheila, I was thinking about folks that are lifelong, like college students. They never leave school because they, again, we all love learning and that kind of thing, but that's not life. That's not living, right? You
Right.
got to go out and practice some of the stuff that you learned out in the
Right.
real world with other people and that kind of thing. And
Well,
so, wow, thank you
yeah,
both.
just real quick, Brian,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
just to comment on Sheila's point. I mean, literally one time I just asked my mom, things were going like exceptionally well. And I was, just kind of saying, hey, am I supposed to be like enjoying this? Am I supposed to like I didn't want to boast, but it was like 10 plus. And she said, yes, it is okay to, like Sheila's saying, it's to celebrate, to acknowledge, to pause, and to take it all in. It
Right.
is okay. And I had to ask, honestly, for permission to do that.
Right.
Aw.
And that's common in our society. So thanks for
Absolutely.
saying that, Dr.
Absolutely.
Chanel.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have more with This Morning with Soulivity.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
We're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. And as always, we like to do some shameless plugs here on our program. Our host and others that are on our platform have wonderful things that they offer to help all of us move on our journey of holistic health, wellness, personal and professional development, which is part of what we do here. Dr. Chanel, you've got some great coaching sessions that you're doing right now. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. So what we're talking about is pausing long enough to find out what's really going on the inside. And I firmly believe that all external problems have internal solutions. So in our coaching, we stop, we pause,
Right.
figure out what's really going on based on how we're feeling and how we're experiencing the world. So yes, providing those one-on-one free consultations or coaching sessions. You can just reach me at the number provided in the chat, as well as my book, Come Back to Yourself, Love Life, Live Free. That is coming back to that inner perfection.
Absolutely. You can also find Dr. Chanel's book at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Chanel. Sheila, you've got a whole lot of stuff happening with your offerings. Where do you want to start first?
Well, let's start with the soul connection session. If you are looking to move into a deeper connection with your soul, perhaps for healing, for expansion, to celebrate the joy that you're experiencing, you can do that with a soul connection session. And because you are a part of Soulivity, you can use the code SOUL, capital letters, 23. Soul 23, and get $44 off your first session. And that will be tailored to what you are looking to achieve. And then also coming up here on Aspire with Soulivity is the Matrix of Illumination, which I do on the 8th of each month. So at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on June 8th, we will be doing a guided meditation and a message from spirit, from the divine. This month, I am going to channel Sola Ra, which is the harmonic union of the divine masculine and divine feminine in one voice. And we're going to kind of explore we're going to do what they want to do, but we're going to explore how we can balance that within ourselves to find more joy.
Yeah.
I pretend I have control.
Exactly, right? It's like, yeah, really? They're like, really? No. I'm in control of this. And there's something very special that you're doing actually with Zach that's coming up on June the 3rd. Would you tell people about that?
Yeah, June the 3rd, we will be offering our fractal illumination gathering. And that is an energy technique that came to us through spirit when we came together. And we've been doing that for 10 years now, helping people to receive an energy boost to help harmonize with all the shifts and changes in the world. So everyone receives it in a personal way, but it is really to help us to adjust. If you're experiencing the waves of shifts going on in the world, it's not all about you and your past. It's just partly that we're changing. And so this helps you move through that with ease. You can find that on my website, or we just posted the link. So
Yeah. Man, thank you both for being here. We're slowly running out of time. Just want to remind everybody again about our fantastic interview with Millana Snow. It's available at soulivity.com. The link is posted in our chat so that you can find out more information about that particular interview, as well as all our great content that's at soulivity.com. You can go there now and you can read all these fantastic stories, including the one with Millana Snow, but also with other great people like Cassandra Reinhardt, who was also on this morning with Soulivity, and a great interview with Dr. Carl Truesdale. He's one of the youngest plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills, and he's doing some transformational work there as well to make people feel good about themselves. Wow. Parting is always such sweet sorrow, my ladies.
Yes.
My grace. Thank you both. This has been a very powerful show.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh
Great
man, and thank you, Millana, for your for the interview that you did with us. Listen, remember to follow us on social media. You can also follow the QR code here, and you'll be able to join our mailing list for exclusive content. On behalf of all of us, we just want to say thank you for joining us for this edition of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast on our social media platforms and on our website, as well as you can listen at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Thursdays and Fridays on KMET 1490 AM radio for all of you out on the West Coast. Until next time, please keep on having those real conversations with passion and purpose, and you can create a life full of high quality living today. Why don't we all say, see you next time.
See you next time.
All right, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.